who watched football this weekend?
Yeah.
I was watching ESPN getting ready this morning. The guy's like, "What?" Greeny's like, the greatest weekend in the history of NFL football. So you can all guess what our kickoff video is going to be today. Who watched the Chiefs game specifically? I heard so many. I was literally getting texts from a buddy from Canada, from Philadelphia, all over the place. Dallas fans like, "Oh my God, this might be the greatest game I've ever seen in my life." I'm like, "Let's see how it ends." But it ended up being the greatest game I've ever seen in my life. Now let's hope they can keep running. All right, guys. And the moral of this story is, I'll say it afterwards. Go. You lost. You missed the last 2 minutes of the game.
No, because I thought they lost.
Well, that is the moral of the story today. When it seems impossible, understand nothing is impossible. When the other team is prematurely celebrating, you may want to wait till the game is over. Joe, turn off the TV. What is wrong with you? I had faith in you. Have faith, baby. Magic Mahomes is on the other side. So was I. So was I, Joe. So, I don't know. That seemed to be inspiration to me, guys. I don't know how you can find a more inspirational video than that to start off the week, guys. So, we've got a lot of stuff to go over here. I feel, I'm going to get Jay and Heather up here a little bit with me, that in our mastermind groups, the conversations have been crazy intense. We've literally been going around in the sales meetings with the most productive people and saying, how many listings you have, how many listings you have, how many listings you have. And in the groups where you're talking about everyone in the group is $15, $20 million plus, it's 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0. We had, what is the number we have today? Active existing listings, 163. Every time I ask Jay, it keeps getting worse. If we keep going down 10 a week, in 16 weeks, it'll be 0. 163. How many coming soons?
79.
So that went up. So that puts us at 240 something.
242.
Guys, Douglas and Sarpy County, this time last year was historic lows for January, and we were sitting at almost 500. 160 some active existing listings in a metropolitan area. What's Douglas and Sarpy County? 650, 700,000 people. 3,200 agents. 160, I'm going to forget about the 3 because I can do that math in my head. 160 active listings. It means 1 in 20 agents has 1 listing today. We've never, ever, ever seen a lack of inventory. And as I'm talking to other CEOs around the country, when they talk about lack of listings and I give these numbers out, they're like, oh my God, that is really crazy. So our number of new pendings for the month as a company, I can't believe just based on these numbers, it's any different for the marketplace, is down. We're probably down 20% January over January for new pendings of where we're going to end the month. Maybe this last week will pop us back a little bit. Yesterday's number was better than it's been the past couple of weekends. But to me is we've got to focus. And so we'll dive on that in here a little bit after I get Scott up here on Broker Exclusives. But we've got to focus on what can we do to find sellers to put their house on the market or to sell. I said an explosion last year. I've said to a number of you in mastermind groups, I do not believe we have a lack of people willing to sell their house or wanting to sell their house. We have a lack of people that are willing to put their house on the active market for the fear of where will I move to. I think there are plenty of people that says my income has grown. I've got lots of equity in my house, more than I thought. Interest rates continue to be low. My family size is growing. There's lots of reasons out there, I believe, that people would like to buy another house and sell their house. But the number one reason we're hearing mastermind groups by far, right, is they're not willing to put their house in the market for the fear of where will we move. And the most common comment is they don't want to be homeless. So Scott, let's Rob, you guys have breakfast out there? AHS coming up here. We're gonna give you a couple minutes. So you guys see what I'm doing here? I start us off with the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of excitement and energy. I bring in the attorney to bring it down a little bit. Now we're gonna talk about home warranties, and then we're gonna step it right back up, guys.
No pressure at all. Well, when that 13 seconds hit on Sunday, I think my son, who's a lifelong Chiefs fan, but 18 years old and not always rational thinking, was ready to fire the entire coaching staff. The players were worthless. It was terrible. And I'm like, just calm down. There's still time. Thinking, yeah, they're going to lose. He gets done and he's still so mad. And I think he was mad that I was right. So I'm like, so you're not happy? It's like, journey's not over yet. Journey's not over. So yes, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that's watched that last like 2 minutes, like 75 times. So anyway, yeah, there's breakfast casserole in the back. Just a couple quick reminders. I won't take too much of your guys' time, but the 90-day rule. So just meaning if you have a customer that did not get a home warranty, it got negotiated out, you know, obviously with the low inventory, the sellers aren't paying for them like they used to. And the buyer says, you know what, I already paid over list price. I have all this money going out. I don't have the extra money for the warranty. If you talk to them after close, we have 90 days from that close date where we can still get them the real estate pricing, the real estate product, which means as opposed to the retail product where there's a 30-day wait period, the real estate product, they can get coverage from day one. So if you talk to them, they say, you know what, man, I think I want to have that protection. Get those over to me. We'll get them set up. We'll get them taken care of.
Now, for clarity, if the furnace went out and they go get it after that, they're not gonna get the furnace replaced.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So once again, it always comes down to known versus unknown pre-existing conditions. So I can't say it wouldn't get covered, but if they know about it and our authorization department finds out about it, I mean, technically they do know. So, but yeah, this comes into play more and more this last year of that situation where we're used to the seller paying for the warranty. And the seller's like, I'm getting as many offers as I want with no contingencies, with no inspections, no nothing. So that I get why the seller's not paying for it. And I get why the buyers are like, you know what, I'm fatigued. I've paid more than I wanted to pay. I've had 5 offers that have been denied already. But like I said, so if you can't get it then, if you follow them up with it afterwards and they want that protection, we can still get that taken care of for them. Yep.
Just when you have time, there's another
Okay.
question.
And then the second thing is with these cold temperatures, if you have those customers, this comes into play more so, you know, Friday evening over the weekend. If the feels like temperature is below 32 degrees, we can expedite those furnace claims, just meaning we'll pay after hour fees, we'll pay weekend, holiday fees, whatever for our vendors. Or if we can't locate one of our vendors, if they're all booked up or if some of them don't work weekends, if that's the case, then we'll give the customer the option to do outside authorization so that they can use a company of their choice. We'll reimburse them. There's a process with that. But once again, if you get those, call, text, email me. Probably on the weekends, a call or text is the quickest way to get through. I'll get them expedited for them and make sure we get those coverage, because when the temperatures get this cold, it's, you know, if it's Friday at 5 and the furnace is out, they don't want to wait to start the process till Monday morning. So
Maggie,
Can you add coverage after the acceptance of an offer if the seller is not with BHHS? So if the buyer writes, it's a BHHS buyer, they write an offer on a listing that's not ours. Can you add coverage at that point?
you sure can. So the seller coverage, whether you represent the seller or the buyer, right now, the way it stands, if you're representing the seller, we're putting on seller coverage there from the get-go.
and if you check that, our admin turns that in.
Yeah, they're taking care of that. There's a spreadsheet each day. We're updating that on a daily basis. Even if you're representing the buyer and not the seller, and the other company didn't put seller coverage on there, and you've asked for the buyer coverage, get it to your admin, have them enter in it as the company that initiated the warranty. So the way that stands currently, that's still no additional charge to put seller coverage on there as well. So there's no reason not to do that. We just need the seller's names. And that way, especially if you do it prior to the inspection, If it pops up in the inspection that there's a crack in the heat exchanger and the furnace needs to be replaced, that would be an unknown pre-existing condition. If that cellar coverage is in place prior to that, that would almost certainly be covered.
This came up in a mastermind group, and I saw them both shake their heads yes. Jay went to our admin. Carrie is told our admin, if the buyer is buying an AHS warranty, to automatically have them at the time they process that put in seller coverage for this purpose. Now, right now, we know of 163 active listings, no one's doing home inspections. But if there was a home inspection, at least that would get covered for that buyer, even if the seller wasn't willing to pay for it when the buyer closed on it. So we've internally, I think, resolved that issue. JD, do you want to add to that?
And then I was gonna say, I had an agent call yesterday that said they were gonna do a pre-listing inspection.
Yep.
And so I told them to make sure that AHS warranty was on there before they did that.
Exactly.
And that some items could be covered possibly.
So I don't think you in the back heard that. So Jay said he had an agent call yesterday, says we're gonna do a pre-listing inspection. And so at that point, again, get the AHS coverage on there prior to doing any inspection, pre-inspection, home inspection after the sale or anything. So you can have that coverage on there.
How do you get coverage on it if you don't have it listed yet?
Well, I'm assuming they have it listed. They're just not active yet.
Correct. It was
Yes.
coming soon or
Yes,
something.
yes, yes, yes.
They have a listing contract.
Call us and we'll help you do it.
Okay.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, we'll get you with.
Okay. We got another microphone here. Daryl,
Just a quick-
hold on one second here.
For the buyer's agents, I think there's been some.
Sit down,
confusion.
sit down, make yourself comfortable.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the seller's coverage is not full coverage on everything in the house like the buyer's coverage. So we've had some confusion. The buyers tell the agents tell their buyers, oh
Washington
yeah,
buyer.
you've got everything covered. And that really is not correct.
So the seller's coverage mirrors the Shield Essential Plan. So that covers the main systems of the home, the plumbing system, which including the water heater, electrical system, and then the HVAC system, so furnace and AC. So yeah, the big one that's obviously the Shield Plus and Shield Complete add-on is for the buyers would be the appliances. So the appliances aren't covered
Correct.
on the seller side.
Correct. So appliances are the big one that's not in there yes. One last question before I wrap this up. Maggie, was there anything else on Zoom? We're good? Everyone else good?
Perfect.
All right. So breakfast out there. Thank you for breakfast. We appreciate it.
I'll stick around. So if anyone has additional questions afterwards, I'll be in the back.
Show of hands, who is doing hopefully seller coverage? That's a no-brainer. That should be a value we're adding in the process right now. So, all right, make sure you continue to do that. Thank you, guys. All right, perfect. Have both those turned on. Jay, Heather, come up here with me.
I know.
Gene, I'm gonna let you sit over there. I'm gonna put chairs up there for these guys. I'll stand. You sit.
Come on, Heather. Yeah.
We usually have good
We're really
panels
not
every
the
now and then.
president.
You know, we want to bring it down. So you really know the agent panels are really great, guys. Before I forget, because I always do this and then I get in trouble afterwards. The awards breakfast is set. A view at West Shores where we had the company Christmas party, March 8th, which is a Tuesday, which is the Tuesday before convention, which as of this minute is still on it. We heard, I'm looking at the two of you. We've not heard anything about convention being canceled, right?
Tell people and they're like, this is on.
Yeah, I heard Kentucky is not a state that's canceling anything.
This is on.
If LA's not canceling the Super Bowl, Kentucky's not going to cancel a convention. But it's breakfast starts at 8. 8:30. Okay, breakfast starts at 8:30. Award ceremony is going to start at 9 sharp, and we want to be in and out of there. We want to be as fast and as effective and as efficient as we can by 11 o'clock. So we'll be following a fair amount of the format that we did last time. We're going to be doing the nominees for the awards. We thought that learning through Zoom, that was a good thing that we got some good press out of. So I think I'm going to be starting those. I brought 7 shirts today. We're going to start filming those today. And so we're going to start creating a lot of momentum building up there. But please write down March 8th out there at a view at West Shores. So love to have you guys out there. In conjunction with that, Jay, I'm going to let you talk about that because I think you've put this together for us, you and Maggie. An email and text will be going out today. We're not going to hand out paper ballots like we've done in the past. Last year, if you remember, we did it all electronically via email for the K. Carol Lisi Award for the Outstanding Salesperson of the Year. This year, we left the number at a minimum volume of $4 million to qualify to put you on that list, because to me, in my mind, it's a combination of excellence in selling. You've got to sell a certain amount of real estate. But this award is what is outstanding to you. Is it because someone helps other agents? Is it because they help out in the community? You know, is it because they're insanely focused on selling lots of real estate? But, you know, the definition of what an outstanding agent is different to different people. So we don't define that. We leave that to you to vote on it with your heart. But this is a vote amongst the peers, and obviously our highest award every year. So Jay, I'm gonna let you talk about how that's gonna get out to them, and then how that gets back to us. So I know last year we were tracking it via email addresses, so I'll leave that to the techies.
Well, it's pretty simple. It's a simple form. When you get it, it'll be to vote. It'll be down at the bottom, but there'll be an image on there that will have the 200 plus different agents that are qualified for the award.
So on your phone, you might be scrolling for a while.
Well, so there's an image that will have those a little bit easier to view. And then down at the very bottom, you really just need to type your name out so that we know that you voted. And then there's just a drop down, and then you don't have to scroll through those. You can just, so if it was a particular name, you can just start typing that name. That selection will come up right away, click it, and then you just hit submit. It's very simple, easy to do. But if you're having any problems, just let us know. But the form will work. If it's on your desktop, it'll work. But if you click on the text, the form should bring up in a mobile friendly version as well for you to easily do that as well.
Perfect. Some confusion. If somebody has won that award before, we don't let anybody win that award a second time. So their name may not be on there. So we do list on the past winners at I thought it was at the bottom, right?
Yeah, it'll explain a little bit about it. It'll have the past winners, and then it'll have the current ones that
At
are
the top.
available.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So that should be coming out today. So get that back to us, and we want to keep rolling on this. So, all right, guys. So like I talked about earlier, is in our mastermind groups, it seems like we've been spending probably more time than anything talking about where are we going to not only get listings, where are we finding homes for our buyers? So I've asked these guys to scrub through some of their notes and talk about those things. Heather, let me start off with you. You know, what are you in that conversation? What are what are some of the common things that we're discussing of getting people out of your comfort zone, out of your box, and not dependent on just the MLS? We keep saying to everybody, we need to start thinking in a non-traditional way if we're going to be productive this year.
Well, in most of our masterminds right now, the main topic is what is your value that you bring when you're on a listing presentation, and what's your company's value that it brings with, or what it brings with you on your listing presentation. So I think that we're really trying to touch on that, because right now as realtors, the consumers think selling it for sale by owner is really easy. So we have to show them our value. Megan Owens, I know right now, for trying to get listings, is sending out market updates to her past clients and letting them know how much equity they might have in their house from buying it from when they bought it 5, 10, 8, whatever years ago. So that's been a really great way for her to reach out to her past clients and try and get them to at least see how much equity they have, because they have no idea as the normal consumer.
And so to piggyback that, because Megan and what she's doing, and she usually lets us share this with people.
Yeah, that's what I was on A&B Agent Tools. If you just type in CMA, it'll bring up her yearly CMA that she sent out in 2020. So it'll show the exact, I guess, flyer that she had, and then the MLS CMA summary that she prints out. So that's available for everybody online.
And just so everyone understands that, she's doing neighborhood analysis. So she has 3 people that she sold houses to, that's part of her database in one neighborhood. She sends out to everyone in that neighborhood. Here's here's the actives, which is probably nothing. Here's the pendings, which is probably nothing. And here's the solds over the last year. But what she has added that's probably not in that 2021 is she's now in neighborhoods saying, the average house over the last 3 years has went up $60,000, $70,000. You've got so much more equity. And then I think she's also putting a call to action in those now that's saying, with all this equity, if you'd like to find out exactly what your house is worth, please give me a call, and I'd be happy to come out and do a more detailed market analysis. That's the results. In that same theme, Mike Pettit said that he's encouraging people. He says, as much as we believe, because we live, eat, and die this, that everybody knows how much equity they've got, how much their house is appreciated, that when they're calling people, going through your database, just calling people and talking about what's happened over the market and appreciations over the last 2 to 3 years, that many people don't really realize what the value of their house is today. And that's kind of makes them start thinking in a different light is, wow, I didn't realize I had $80,000 equity over the last 4 or 5 years of buying my house. And the truth is that's not a stretch, right? If you sold someone a house for $200,000 4 or 5 years ago, what's that house worth today? It's probably worth close to $300,000. So people have got more equity coming out of real estate than they've ever had before. So if you're not going to take the time and energy, because it is very time consuming to put together all these neighborhood analysis, at least pick up the phone and start running through every one of your 300, 400 people sphere to make calls to them, to check in with them and express that to them.
And when she's doing it, she's doing a pretty basic one. She's doing subdivision. She's not doing an actual CMA for each property. She's got a clump of people that are in, Piedmont or West Shores, whatever. She's doing a very basic summary of a CMA.
Yes.
Another thing right now agents are doing is HomeBot, because of the interaction that the clients are having with HomeBot. They are making sure all their clients are entered into HomeBot. They're doing neighborhood flyers with QR codes to get them to sign up for their HomeBot. That way also that will show them what kind of equity they might have in their house. And you can kind of watch what kind of interactions they're having with HomeBot.
So does everyone understand that? So if you put that, if they're sent out to your neighborhood, because we've had Lori Paul and some people says, you know what, I need to do that. I want to capture more people. So if you send that out with the QR code, they can go sign up to your HomeBot account, which is what, $6 a month? $7 a month?
No, 12.
$12 a month? I know. And this was a test. She flunked it. I knew what it was.
No, you didn't.
$12 a month. And it's normally $25 a month. I apologize. But what will happen is if you send that out to people with the QR code, they can go in there. Now, all of a sudden, you've got their email address, their contact information. So you're adding to your database in that process. Really great in a neighborhood that you're farming.
And they're seeing like about a 60 to 70% open rate. So you're seeing a lot of interaction. I think the consumer is very interested in seeing what their house is worth. So I think that's a great tool to use if you're not using it. And as a flyer, just to mail it out with the QR code, everyone's kind of into the QR codes right now because they're kind of the new thing.
Yep.
New thing, but it's old, but.
And it's consistent. I've had it for 2 or 3 years, quite a while. And my open rate still is 60 to 7% 2 or 3 years later. And right now I'm getting a lot of requests, people asking for CMA updates and stuff like that with the beginning of the new year. So, and it's great too, because it starts conversations. Like I have a couple people that are chunking down their mortgage and it tells me they go in there, they interact with it. So it's just a great tool for people.
Jay, what's some other things you're hearing out of our mastermind groups of vehicles or things that agents are doing to go find houses for their buyers or to get listings?
Well, what I think about is when you talk about, you got to think differently, but you need to, yes, you have your sphere of influence, but how do you get in front of the people that you know, in front of the people that they know? And so it just reminded me of Shannon Salem when she was up here on our breakthrough class, that she sits down with people and she said, she has something, I'd have to go back and watch, but it's something to the effect that, who do you know that I need to know? Something like that. So she's having those conversations with people to try to get into their networks. So that way you can expand and try to find some more listings. So it's just thinking outside of the box, sitting down with people. Brian Buffini, back when they had that Riz Media at the beginning of the year, he says, and Vince will talk about this as well, is that people want to get together. People that are comfortable with doing that, go ahead and make those calls and try to sit down for a coffee or lunch or get together with them if they're comfortable with it. And then ask those questions to find out how you can get into their network. I think that would be something that would make sense to do. And then the big thing too is appraisal gaps. I wanted to make sure Vince brings us all the time up in our masterminds, but when you're a listing agent and you get an appraisal gap in there and they say unlimited or even 10 or 15,000 for the appraisal gap, make sure that you're verifying those funds, that buyer actually has those funds, because a lot of buyers will just say that and then they may not actually have the funds available outside of their down payment and earnest deposit, down payment, and closing costs. And then also on the seller side, put in a floor. So if you negotiated, the house was 350, that went up to 380, and the buyer says, hey, we're going to pay $15,000 in that appraisal gap, you need to go ahead and say that the floor for the seller is going to be whatever, 360. So that way, if it appraises less than that, then the seller's not having to sell that house for,
Right. So I don't know if you guys remember, we had a house that sold for $450 last year. that said that the seller accepted an offer where the buyer said, we'll pay $10,000 over $10,000 over shortage on an appraisal. Sold for 450, appraised at 400. Now the seller is just, because there was no floor there, has just sold the house for 410,000. The seller was not happy, right? They did not imagine they could sell a house for 450, appraised at 400. So what Jay's saying there is, if you're accepting, if that buyer's coming back and saying, okay, we'll pay $10,000 over any shortage on appraisal, and the seller accepts that, go back. I would have went back to that seller and said, okay, I want you to understand this, that if it appraises at X, you're basically selling for $10,000 more than that. Is there a floor we want to put in there? And put in there saying, okay, now if it appraises less than 425, all of a sudden you have the right, because 425 plus 10 means they would have sold it for 435. Can you live with that number? But if it's below that number, it gives the out to a seller. So if you're going to accept that they're going to pay $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000, put a floor in there for your seller. So they're not doing that. The exact opposite of this was what Jay's saying that we saw a lot of last spring. And we think, by the way, we think what happened last year and last spring and summer is going to happen exactly this spring and summer on steroids, because we even got less inventory than we did before. We're already seeing, with no listings out there, 12, 15, 20 plus offers on houses in early January. So the other thing is, we've seen buyers last year, they got beat out on 3, 4, 5, 10 houses. They got frustrated. They're like, fine, put in their appraisal gap that we'll pay any difference. Again, going and bought a $240,000 house, not thinking it could appraise at 220, well, they didn't have an extra 20,000. They had an extra 5 or 10,000. I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, well, they bought that house. They need to go to a family member or somebody else. And if they don't buy that house and they go buy another house, you know, they've already missed out on 5, I think this case is 5 or 6 houses. What's going to make them think that they're going to find another house and not have the same exact issue? So to Jay's point, listing agents should do a due diligence, but a buyer's agent should also say, okay, do you have an extra $15,000, $20,000 of this thing that appraises low above and beyond your 5% down or whatever you're doing on the house? Does everyone understand that? Because that's the world. This whole thing's going full circle. What we were talking about last year, unfortunately, looks like we're going to be talking about again this year. So I want to go back to great stuff on the appraisal gap. I want to go back to what can we do non-traditional, shitty letters, door knocking, guys. I mean, it's cold out there, but honestly, if we've got buyers, they're going to be getting frustrated. Heather mentioned it. Go sell it for sell by owner. For sell by owner, which we don't love, the truth is they're not getting as many offers and they don't have a clue what their house is worth. So you may be serving your buyer very well to go sell them for sell by owner, but you need to get out there, do shitty letters, farm your database and tell them to please, you know, anybody that you know that's thinking about buying or selling a house, reach out to me. Door knocking, whatever you can do. I know we got some questions here. Whatever you can do, non-traditional, to find people to sell their house, do that. Social media, Nextdoor app, so forth. So add to those guys if there's something else I'm missing there.
Well, that's what you said. Kelly last year also put in the paper and on social media about she had 4 or 5 buyers looking for something, and she put that out to not just within our internal page, but out to the public on our social media.
Yeah, she even put, yeah, you're right. In social media, everyone, I have a buyer looking at 66 for a ranch up to 600,000. I have a buyer looking in for an acreage up to this price. I have a buyer looking in Elkhorn for a 2-story up to this price. So again, be proactive. Put that out there so you can see those things. Question.
2 questions.
2 questions.
Please remind everybody what the shitty letter is.
Remind everyone what the shitty letter is. So the shitty letter it's a handwritten letter, right? Amanda Sway kind of started this, and she did a whole lot of deals last year by sending those out. And it could be one of 2 things. It could be, I sold a house in this neighborhood. I have additional buyers. We know there's a lack of listings. If you or anybody you know in the neighborhood is interested in selling, please give me a call. But it's just a handwritten on the address, on the envelope, and handwritten on the thing, which draws attention. It gets opened up. The other thing could be not a house that you've sold, but the exact opposite of that could be, you know, I have buyers looking in your neighborhood. There's a lack of listings in there. If you or anybody you know of in the neighborhood is interested in selling, please give me a call. But it's a handwritten note on a postcard. She uses a Sharpie on a piece of paper and just scribbles it out real quick and sends it out to them to draw attention to it. But the door knocking, all those type of things. So what was the second question?
The second one is, do we have an appraisal gap contingency form?
Scott.
We have that language. Yeah, we put that out last year.
Of course we do.
Yes, we do.
It's in the buzz.
It's also in the closet.
It's in the closet in dot
We
loop.
sent out maybe 3 emails, put it in the closet.
So go ahead, wrap up, go ahead.
So with
We're
them
down to our last
talking
5
about
minutes.
How everyone's putting in social media, that's why it's going to be so important for you to get your broker exclusives and no shows, because these houses are selling before you even have a chance to get them listed, because the consumers are so, I watch like Buy Sell Omaha, and it's nuts how these people are connecting and getting their houses sold without even listing them. So as us as agents, we have to make sure that we're stressing how much we're going to make this a stress-free, easy transaction for them, that we can possibly get them better terms with no inspections, get them higher prices, which would essentially pay our commissions. We need to talk to our sellers that have houses to sell, to buy, to see if they can get pre-approved without selling their house or get bridge loans, so they can write offers without contingencies. I think we've got to be really diligent with talking to our buyers and letting them know how many offers they're going to have to write, what kind of expectations to have. So after you showed them or written 10 offers, they don't dump you thinking you're not doing your job after you spent endless hours with them. So, I mean, it's going to be super important this year to make sure that we're educating our consumers and doing anything that we can to help them get their houses.
That's where we're really, guys, that is the number one thing I think you need to be cognizant of, because buyers are going to start getting frustrated and they're going to get mad at you. So we went full circle, and that's the greatest expectation and burden that I believe that you have right now today is set correct expectations, and then give them a laundry list. You're probably going to have to do an appraisal gap. You're probably going to have to pay the seller's closing costs. You're probably not going to be able to get an inspection on this, which is the reason you maybe want to get a warranty on this, right? You need to walk through this laundry list of things saying, this is things I would never recommend you do in a normal situation, but these are not normal times. And set that expectation. You're going to probably write 4 or 5 or 6 offers. Talk to them. Do you have a family member you can go borrow money from to pay cash for it, or put more money down on it to strengthen your position in this? You've got to walk through this laundry list of 7, 8, 9 things. I think last year we talked about there's like 8 or 9 things. We can probably put this list together again of things you need to do. If you're not setting that expectation, you're going to have a very upset buyer. Buyers, parents, I think, have finally caught on, but buyers, especially first-time buyers and move-up buyers, are bringing parents into the process because they're borrowing money from them. And parents are like, well, you shouldn't pay over list price. Well, I think even parents today have figured out we need to pay over list price. So I don't think we have that same burden. But if you have parents and other people involved in that process, offer to call them, to walk them through what's going on in the marketplace, to tell them. I don't think anybody in the market, because I'm shocked when I hear this, I don't think anybody in the marketplace understands there's only 163 active listings in Douglas and Sarpy County. That's crazy. Heather sent this to me because Heather's so nice and positive to me. She sent this to me this
I
morning.
love
saying,
my boss.
she says, other than just that Mahomes bullshit, I think you should bring these people some real inspiration. So the Heather quote of the day, which was of inspiration a couple different times
I
from
don't watch his
Winston
inspirations.
Churchill, which she says she does not ever read, is we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill. So knowing that Heather knows this makes it makes my day. I'm happy now.
Well, I was listening to the Giftology book and how this can actually help grow your business. And it was like, giving people this great experience is going to get you a better life. So that's where I kind of heard it this morning. It was kind of a good inspiration. I thought instead of his BS of Kansas City Chiefs, that maybe something enlightening.
Who was
like this might
motivated by
help
that
you.
Chiefs video? Huh?
I was not.
The real
It
fans.
did not do it for me. I'm sorry. This
Well, that's okay.
Giftology book, it woke me up.
If I'm
So-
happy, you should be happy. Come on, we're partners in this. All right, we're past our time. Each one of you give one nugget. What's one takeaway that you want to share with these guys as they head out there? What's one final thought for them to leave?
I guess the one thing too is we talked about revisiting. It's not a new concept, but it's just revisiting, possibly getting into some networking groups. So if you haven't done that, maybe establishing one on your own or getting to those that have that network. And then again, if you're building your database, don't say you're working on your database and then work on that for 3 months. If you're going to put 5 people in your database, put them in, make the calls, do a CMA, and then move on to the next day and do that. Just don't work on your database. You got to actually be reaching out to people.
Yes.
I think my nugget right now is to be nice to other agents. You guys are working your butts off. It's really exhausting out there. If you guys are showing houses, be kind to the agents that are, trying to get a hold of you and get information about writing the offers. Thank people for writing offers. Call them back and tell them, I appreciate you taking the time to write the offer, but my sellers went a different direction. And then also, if you're writing offers for buyers, ask the sellers what's important to them, so you know exactly how to cater the offer for your buyer to make that work for their seller. So
I think we will have a sales meeting in 2 weeks from today. And then we have the awards breakfast after that. So we are getting back to, we're going to continue to do these live. We'll continue to offer them in Zoom. And those of you that are freaked out when I got rid of Zoom last year, we're going to, at least till this, here for the next couple of months, we're going to continue to offer it on Zoom. But we want to get back to doing sales meetings every 2 weeks. We hope that you find value in them. To me, a big part of the value is bringing you together, the energy, the excitement, and then, the buzz before and after these sales meetings. So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to be intentional as much as we can, working around my schedule and our schedule of doing these at least twice a month moving forward this year, back to what we were doing pre-COVID. Guys, be intentional, set correct expectations, but you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to work hard, guys, to make a good living this year. More agents in the business, less deals to be had. Let's take more than our fair share. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. And hopefully I'll be showing some more Chief videos because they keep winning.